So let's think about how metadata fits into the context of the GIS data. So metadata is part of the data, but it's a very specific part of the data. And one way to think about it is that it gives us this context to the content of the data as opposed to the data itself, or the GIS data itself. So if we think about it, we have the real world here, and we have some sort of phenomenon in the real world like vegetation or something similar. And of course we can make a map of vegetation in the real world, but we have to abstract that. We can't put every single tree onto a map, so we have to abstract that in some way. So the phenomenon on the Earth goes through some sort of an abstraction, and this might be a map or an image, or it could even be a database that doesn't have a spatial component to it, or it could be data in a spatial database. All of those things are some sort of abstraction of what we see in the real world, and with that we can make a map. But if we think about it, if someone wants to know what this map is all about, we don't necessarily know by looking at this map that it's a vegetation map, or who put that map together, whether they were experts or non-experts. All of this other sort of information that puts that map into context, that's when we need to do the second abstraction and get to the metadata. And of course the metadata would once again answer those who, what, when, where, how, why type questions by things like a title, or who the responsible party is, or what was the purpose of that map, or where was the geographic extent. All of those sorts of questions can be answered by the metadata. You might have been able to get some idea for some of this, like this is Australia, if you had some knowledge of what Australia looked like. But here it's spelled out for you. There's no indication on this map that it's a vegetation map, but here that could be included in the metadata, and all of those things become more apparent. So once we have this metadata put together, of course the real power of that metadata is that metadata helps us discover data. If we're looking for something like a vegetation map of Australia, we can search on those sorts of words and see if they're in the metadata of other data sources that we might not be aware of. So we can search by things like location or theme. So we could search for all information in Australia, or by themes such as vegetation, a certain time period if we're interested in vegetation change, who the publisher is if we know that there's an expert in this field publishing maps, or just the attributes associated with this data, and of course lots more. Whatever is included in the metadata becomes much more searchable and easy to find, and easier for us to use as a resource. So metadata does aid in data discovery, and we kind of have a couple different ways of thinking about that from the user's perspective. So metadata enables users to search either their own data management system, which would be something in the GIS or a database management system, or some other system that allows a search to take place. So that would kind of be almost like an internal search within your organization, or within the data that you're using. But it also, of course, allows you to search externally on the web or in other ways. So we could search then through data distribution systems such as data catalogs, servers that deal specifically with GIS data, various web mapping applications that we could pull data down from, and many other sources such as this. It's all out there, but we need a way to easily find it in order to better use it for our purposes.